We have been talking about traffic 2000, and here colors are not employed to suggest temporal difference, but spatial difference. So, colors mark different narrative strands, indicate spatial differences. Benicio del Toro's story is set in grainy, washed out yellow, bleached out yellow of Mexico. However, traffic basically deals with what? Drugs, drug trafficking, and how drugs as a influences families or businesses or politics even. For the Michael Douglas story and Michael Douglas and his family, Steven Soderbergh used a blue palette, steel grey blue, and for Catherine Zeta-Jones and Dennis Quaid strand, we get a sun-drenched full color set in San Diego. We were talking about surrealism. So, what is surrealism? Let us talk about the other day while discussing realism, we talked about magic realism, surrealism. So, what is surrealism?
Showing something which is in stark opposite to reality and then.
Okay, a subconscious state of mind, okay, a dreamlike state of mind. Who was the master surrealist? Most well known, Salvador Dali. Dali collaborated with Buñuel in Ashia Andalo, the movie which we were discussing the other day, a hand splicing an eyeball. Okay. So, Salvador Dali actually collaborated on that film in creating these very gloomy, blurry and dreamlike state images. Taxi Driver, okay, when Robert De Niro is on a killing rampage, when he shoots every possible villain and pimp in a brothel where Judy Foster is kept. By the end, he is so pleased with himself, he has these delusions about himself as this kind of a one man army, a hero, whereas Martin Scorsese is quite ambiguous about his state, okay, it is about his position. He is not really a hero for Scorsese, he is just a deranged, highly disturbed man, okay, but in his mind he is a hero. And then you have these shades of very saturated red trickling down the wall, trickling down Travis Bickle's own head and all over the place, pools of red, very saturated, not really a very realistic red, but saturated red. Filmmakers also make use, this is another symbol, to lend very, again we are talking about delineation of characters, how colors delineate characters. So, you have Jim Carrey playing the Riddler in Batman Forever, thank you, and of course, you have Heath Ledger doing his Joker in shades of purple, green and other. So, colors are important, colors tell us about the character. Colors may also evoke nostalgia. And when nostalgia is evoked, we do not have saturated colors, okay. We have soft muted colors in soft muted glow. So, one good example is Cinema Paradiso, a wonderful Italian film So, everything is tinted with fond memories for the protagonist. Can you think of more nostalgic films? Think nostalgia and you will always have soft muted colors. Which is that?
Malena.
Okay, all right. Anything else? And there is a Jim Carrey movie, I don't know how many of you are aware of that, early 2000, it's called The Majestic. It's all about a movie theatre which he tries to restore for someone who mistakes him for his son, for his lost son. And it's a beautiful movie shot in very soft and muted colors. We often talk about black and white films. So, black and white, I do not know how many of you still watch black and white films, but there are occasional black and white films which which get released once in a while and people talk about it. So, very notable examples: Woody Allen's Manhattan, 1979. Scorsese, after Taxi Driver and Saturated Colors, resorted to Raging Bull, which won Robert De Niro his first Academy Award. No, sorry, second. First was for Godfather Part 2. Okay. Steven Spielberg's Schindler's List. Tim Burton's Ed Wood, which is a biopic of a failed filmmaker. Yeah. It's a very interesting movie, watch it. Jim Jarmusch again is an expert, is very fond of making black and white movies. He is an indie filmmaker. Dead Man with Johnny Depp, and he has also made an anthology, a very famous anthology, Jim Jarmusch. Which is it? Good, Coffee and Cigarettes. It has beautiful segments, particularly with Alfred Molina and Kate Blanchett. George Clooney's drama Good Night and Good Luck is based on the McCarthy period and the communist witch hunting, so called, is set during the McCarthy period, early 50s, late 40s, and was released in 2005. A beautiful example of black and white movie. Sin City, of course, is based on a graphic novel and it's very faithful to the novel. And most recent successful example, The Artist, 2011. Would you like to add to this list?
But again, it's a
Graphic novel, yeah. So, graphic novels stay true to their concept. So, therefore, black and white. What effect? Can you just take any movie and forget the films which are based on graphic novels, but why do you think we need to have Raging Bull in black and white? Too much blood, but then there was too much blood in Taxi Driver also.
It's not about blood, it's about the protagonist of his psychological journey.
Exactly. So, in Taxi Driver, the violence is psychological. In Raging Bull, it's very physical. And Scorsese wanted to avoid all that blood flying around. Because instead of showing red blood, it's better to show blood in stark shades or muted shades of grey, and therefore resorting to black and white. However, there is a particular segment in Raging Bull also which is in color. Do you remember which? No, not towards the end. There is a time when Jake LaMotta, well, yeah, that's just a glimpse, a very minor scheme, good. But I am talking about a home video that Jake LaMotta shoots with his family. Would you like to drink water? Yeah. So, there is a home video that he shoots with his family, and that is the only time Scorsese allows us to watch some color on screen. Again, that is very nostalgic for Jake LaMotta, who has lost everything, his money, his fame, his family, his love, all his loved ones have left him. So, the only color in his life was his family, which he loses as well. So, therefore, the use of color, it makes sense, it's symbolic. Clooney's movie, on the other hand, is a period film, and perhaps he wanted to give a more realistic touch, and therefore, after all, it's talking about those times when television was in black and white. Ed Morrow is the key protagonist there, and Ed Morrow was known for his show Good Night and Good Luck, which was a black and white show. So, therefore, the necessity to show that. So, most scholars of color theory believe that black and white, even in times of color, is used to make films more elegant and often more dramatic. Directors and cinematographers are often freed from the reality of color. Color binds people, constrains them, and certain kinds of theme call for black and white. For example, when you have to portray psychological or moral conflict on screen, as in Schindler's List, when the setting is more naturalistic, not real but naturalistic, as in Manhattan. And then of course, we were talking about a dark graphic novel such as Sin City, which has occasional flashes of yellow. Am I right? Red and yellow. Any comments you would like to make about color theory? Color, any observation?
There's actually a slightly obscure Tobey Maguire movie called Pleasantville.
Pleasantville, yes.
So what happens in that is they watch this old TV show which is in black and white, and somehow through some device which isn't really explained, they end up in that TV show. So they end up being black and white themselves, and how they get used to that, and how towards the end of the movie the place where they are, Pleasantville, turns into color as well. So their color plays a role in the story itself, in the plot itself.
Color, use of color as a narrative. Yes, that's a very good example. Pleasantville. Okay, how many of you are familiar with Three Kings? Three Kings is actually a very interesting film. If you watch it, you will understand that how the horrors of war are muted as David O. Russell resorts to use those bleached out muted colors. So, colors do add to the narrative towards telling a story. Okay. Looper is a very recent movie. Yeah, listen to this.
The main character is a drug addict. He takes drugs in the form of eye drops. So the first time he takes it, everything on screen becomes brighter. To show his change of mind.
State of mind. Good. I am glad you are thinking along those lines. Okay, so the moment he starts taking drugs, everything is sunny and bright. That's a state of mind. Surrealism. Yeah, we are talking about. Now, let's discuss a film like The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises. Batman Begins was often in shades of Batman Begins. Brown, muted oranges and yellows. Yeah, earthy browns. Yeah, but as the sequels progressed, the films got more and more darker. Did you notice that? The Dark Knight Rises is also remarkable because this is the very first time that you see Batman during daytime. You never have daytime in Gotham City. That's what the earlier versions have told us. You watch the Tim Burton version of Batman with Michael Keaton. Okay, and then we also had a version with Val Kilmer, which is a fairly decent one with Nicole Kidman, Batman Forever. Okay, so you never have daytime on screen in the Batman saga. The Dark Knight is the first movie to use daytime on screen in the Batman narrative. But that is not to say that the theme is not dark. It is the Dark Knight, as you know the film progresses, it gets darker and darker, and it ends on a very pessimistic, very nihilistic note, if you remember, where there is a need for hero, but such are the conditions that you cannot call the real hero hero. Okay. You need to create a false hero to you know, to keep that ray of hope alive in the people, and it ends on a very dark note and on very dark colors. If you watch the movie, you will understand. Okay. The last part of this, you know, that this is the final, that is what Christopher Nolan tells us, no more Batman, okay, which is sad for the fans, but anyway, can't be added anything more to it. So, how does that movie end? I mean, it starts with Batman closeted, he is beaten up, he is almost like, you know, badly in need of help. You see him as he walking with the help of a walking stick, okay, all beaten, psychologically, physically, morally. Okay, he does not want to show his face to the world. Even Bruce Wayne, it is not just a Batman, but Bruce Wayne, okay, and he is not the same old flamboyant Bruce Wayne anymore.
It's very much like Citizen Kane as well, because he's alone in the house, and
Yeah.
the way they talk about him as well, nobody has seen him in a while, and especially the way the manner is shown, it's almost a bit like Citizen Kane, how they show Xanadu as well.
Yeah. Okay, a huge castle, choking with bric-a-bracs and beautiful things which are assembled in that castle. So, that is the you know, similarity he is drawing, that is the parallel he draws between Citizen Kane's Xanadu and Bruce Wayne's castle. But how does the movie end? The Dark Knight Rises, on a dark note or on a positive? Yes, because finally he has found peace, the Batman is dead, but still Bruce Wayne lives on. Okay. And what is the color scheme there? It's bright. It's set in Italy. Okay. Where Alfred's character, Michael Caine, goes to Italy, and it's an unspoken bond between them, some kind of a deal between them, that they wouldn't show any recognition, they won't exhibit any recognition of each other, but they do acknowledge each other while sitting at two different tables at different corners of the open restaurant. It is not a closeted dark restaurant, but it is very you know, open air kind of a place. And Batman is with his lady, the Catwoman, okay, and it is bright, sunny and glowing, and both dressed up very differently the way they used to dress earlier. So, what do colors signify here? A change, a transition, also happy ending. So, it was good to see a Batman series ending that way on a note of hope. Anything else that you can think of?
Would you say that it's more difficult to do black and white
In times
Hindi
of
movie?
color? In
Hindi movies?
why does Hindi? Why not talk about Indian cinema?
Yeah, possibly because the like culturally the color stands for so much more. Like everything has some significance, right? So would you say that it's more difficult to do color? I mean, non-color.
Okay, but let us assume we want to make a movie based on our silent cinema period, 1930s or early 40s, and wouldn't it be more wiser, more prudent to use a black and white color scheme? And they can use, some smart filmmaker can use, but usually we like to play it safe.
Malayalam was remade in like such a classic black and white film.
And did you like it?
Was remade in I don't know.
Yeah. I think it was 2005. Color. Watch the film in color. Yeah, I remember the billboards screaming at us. Yeah. But did you watch the movie and did you like the colors?
Black and
You
white.
preferred it in black and white because of its simplicity and elegance. I think it made much more sense when it was in black and white. I don't know, maybe they wanted to reach out to the younger generation, and that's something most of us have noticed, that when it's a black and white movie, people don't like, especially in our country, so they are bang on. Okay. Culturally, we do have, as a nation, we do have prejudices towards black and white cinema, especially in times of color. Why use color? Why use black and white scheme at all when color is so easily available? So, we are used to watching color on screen. But I do not think that internationally this practice prevails, because to my knowledge, I have never seen a black and white class. Citizen Kane goes color. Okay, imagine. We do not want to watch Citizen Kane in color, right? It makes perfect sense in its original avatar. No need to mess around with it. So, that is a matter of personal taste, but I do feel that classics, once they are made, they should be restored, okay, but not and there is no need to add colors to it, because that is the way they were intended to be. All right, any comments, observations?
Kieslowski's color trilogy.
Color trilogy, that is very important. Polish filmmaker Kieslowski, yeah. So, blue, red and white, okay. We will be discussing the film, because that is also, there is a thread running through the film, the trilogy, there is a theme there. We will be discussing the film soon if we have the time.
Even Kieslowski's a short film about killing. In that, as the movie progresses, all the shade, it becomes more and more, the frame becomes more and more covered with shades and black.
You know what, European cinema is much more experimental with their color palette, okay, and with their innovative uses of color on screen. There is something, there is a movie called Red Balloon, okay, and it's a very symbolic, very suggestive movie, full of very deep kind of images. So, colors do play a very important role. It is not like they just have a red balloon there, it stands for something. Okay. So, European cinema has some kind of an ideology, some kind of a method behind using a particular color scheme. Colors in a narrative are meant to aid the verbal communication, in the sense that certain shades of feelings and emotions are incommunicable in words, hence the employment of colors. Further, colors also elicit certain emotions or reactions in the human and also in animals. Think showing a red rag to a bull. So, this acts as a psychic stimulant, therefore, the significance of colors. Okay. All right. So, thank you very much, and we meet tomorrow.